we're just gonna pick it up from here. You know what I'm saying? Because I didn't do a theme or anything to open up, this conversation because these are like the impromptus,
Yep.
and you try to get on where you can and get people
Oh
in the
yeah.
space, and and you know, and it's better to kind of like pick it up, especially when you think about the nature of like whatever mentorship is. It just happens. So
Yep.
um, I like to call this the Accountable Masculinity Spotlight when I do these,
Hmm.
because usually we get a chance to highlight, you know, there's a lot of important people that's connected with each other on social
Oh
media.
yeah. Oh yeah. Definitely.
People that's got whole villages and tribes, and what I'm saying, a lot of responsibility outside of like what we can actually show.
Yeah.
And I think it's important for men to speak openly, and kind of like put some um put some perspective on why we say the things that we say, why we engage the way we engage, because somebody with a different perspective and a different experience based on their engagements with other people,
Hmm.
they're going to perceive whatever they perceive from it.
Yeah.
So I think it's important that the men of value that are, trying to make things happen, teach, mentor, train, lead, whatever words you want to use. I think more of those men need to start talking to each other versus just
Yeah.
acknowledging that we exist. And I think I think social media has brought everybody to the same conversation. Yeah, we can agree, like, and respond and react to certain things,
Mhm.
and piggyback on each other's, commentary or whatever. But let's make it work. Let's actually do something that is beneficial for the larger population. You know what I'm saying? That sees the same problems. Like, somebody's got to do something about it. If we're gonna sit back and keep complaining.
Yep. Now, knowing your background, we were talking before we went live, knowing
Yeah.
your background, right? It's very important for me in my background to hear you make it plain, right?
Right.
See, that's what I like about the audience that you're cultivating because you try to make it plain. You're speaking with your intelligence background, but you're not using those words and you're not losing those people. And that's what I've been amazed at with your platform and how you've kind of grown things over the years because I know you're speaking to a bunch of different people who bunch of different backgrounds that have no idea what intel is and the way you put together the information. So when you're talking about those connections, those relationships, you're speaking to someone who's just merely a part of communities here stateside, but you've had to learn and watch others outside of the states to be able to put together this information. So to be able to communicate that to people who don't have that background, I thought it's amazing. I'm like, hey man, that's great because you found a way to communicate at the highest level but also make it plain for those who are not at that level. So I thought that's great. And I think it's very important when you come to having these conversations.
Man, Troy, I appreciate that, because we've definitely spoken offline. We've been, what I'm saying, solid with each other for a few years now. And once you have an experience where you live in a country where you don't speak the language,
Yeah.
but you have to do business with the law of the land, pretty much,
Mm-hmm.
and you still got to be respectful of whatever local customs and courtesy. So what I'm saying, because it's your same safety. You start seeing the parallels. Like, it's no different than like if you never lived in a place where gang culture is prevalent, right? You
Exactly.
go to a place where gang culture actually exists, and then you gotta find out how neutral you want to be. You know what I'm saying? You gotta adhere to, what I'm saying, the environment, pretty much. Well, it's no different when you go, what I'm saying, when you're working in a certain capacity, um, and we like to call it downrange when it's overseas, and you're
Mm-hmm.
working, especially when you're working in a hostile environment, like where you can actually be, what I'm saying, deleted
Mm-hmm.
randomly, and it ain't even personal. You know what I'm saying? It's just something
My
happened.
my son puts it. He's only 3, about to turn 4 at the end of this week, but he calls it getting oofed. You get oofed out here.
Yeah,
You get oofed. Yeah.
I'm not trying to get oofed. You
Yeah.
know, and when you in some places you see somebody get oofed,
Mm-hmm.
like off of just bad timing, you don't even know any of the history that goes with what happened to that individual, it makes you sit back and you just sit back and you're like, well, let me pick my lanes a little bit better. Let me ask more questions. Let me observe more. Like, so working in Afghanistan for like 4 years, I was forced to observe a lot. And then putting that with my background and then putting it all together, you know what I'm saying? It's like I learned way more about watching and writing than I did anything else. So when I started having a conversation with people, I recognized their boundaries very quickly. You know what I'm saying? I'm always recognizing everybody else's boundaries because I'm always prepared for somebody to not understand me. And I think that part right there is, it's like letting your ego go. You still gonna have some ego, you know what I'm saying? Because you gotta, like, your ego is like that shadow that's gonna protect you. It's like, hey, he gonna get a little disrespectful every now and then, but you got enough, of a solid mindset to anticipate that. If somebody's gonna get disrespectful, let it be them. You know what I'm saying? That way, when you have a chance to respond, you given the grace that you are trying to, cultivate. You can't have what you ain't willing to give.
At all. That mindset and just the approach to it in general. I think it's important to even tell people like how me and you identified each other from across the field. And we had a stance and we threw our shots at each other, right? To check our range. And we kept going. But then we moved on to our next battlefronts, right? And then we came across each other and we didn't figure a reason to take another shot. You made a direct engagement. Well, that's before I knew you was an intelligence officer. I'm trying to figure out, like, what is he gonna angle at? Because I would walk up the room into the enemy and shake his hand in front of all his people while they're eating dinner, right? Because we talked about that ego. I lean into my brute. I know that is my ego, that brute. And I can be brutish. And I write about the brute versus the philosopher in that mindset because I am a reader. I am a person who thinks before he acts. But I know the advantages that I've benefited from by being brutish. So for me and you in our engagement, I see that you made a similar distinction about how you move in life because, one, as a soldier, you were asked to be brutish. But
it's the nature of it.
As a soldier that was destined to survive battle and know where his surroundings are and make it home, you develop that other skill set, but you already had it because we already made it out of our first battle zones, right? We made it out of these places where we came from. And it wasn't that itself was challenging. We watched people get oofed on the way out. There you go. So we know we made it out of something. We know we transitioned out of something. A lot of people arrive to those points where they think they're a man and they're facing their first battle that, am I ready for this? I'm like, oh no, this has already been cultivated. We know we're ready for this. The idea is, do we plan and do we have a plan for this next step that we're in right now, this environment that we're in? So we have we've had those conversations, man. It's just interesting to find ourselves right here. And one of the reasons why I want to jump online because I saw someone who was not making that distinction. They wasn't holding to a certain code amongst how they communicate to everyone or every situation like that. And they kind of threw names out there that they didn't give levity to. And if you're giving levity to one, you have to tell us why you're not giving levity to all, because that's your code. I have a code and I give levity to all. But my friends, my brother, my homeboys are the ones that will lose that levity faster. They're like, well, why that? Because they already know the code. They know the rules. They know what's at stake. They know what it costs when you do cross my boundaries. Therefore, they get excommunicated faster than a stranger would.
Oh, absolutely. Because we had the same experience at the same time. And this is about, like what you can relate to. I don't expect everybody to relate to each other. I definitely don't. I'm always prepared to be misunderstood. Because I believe more people are comfortable with being in competition with each other for unhealthy reasons.
Exactly. Because they think it brings them coins or prizes. Or hearts and likes, right? If I can stand out in front of this person and get this person to act out of character, maybe these other people in our social group will reward me. Like, The school shooters showed you all how being rewarded for those social standings in school can be dangerous. The school shooters told you that. They rewrote the matrix towards how you respond in a social environment. You can laugh, you can point, you can pass the note, you can disparage somebody's name. And then the school shooters told you that you will absolutely pay the price for it, and you're just a child, and you're not a soldier, and you're not prepared for battle.
Yep.
So why would you continue on that same line of rhetoric and reward people for certain behavior in these social environments when you know it can cost you your life, even at the middle school age?
Yep.
We've seen this over the last 25 years. Yep. So develop a code now, develop a code young, and make sure your standards are ones that allow you to survive this environment, because the people who act like they want to love life and enjoy life so much are the ones who also don't think they have to have a code to go by.
Yeah, I wrote something called the warrior versus the worrier. Mm-hmm. And the one functions in an abundance mindset and one functions in a scarcity mindset. Mm-hmm. And the warrior has way more complaints than solutions. Being a warrior doesn't allow you to, like, even if you put your sword down, well, actually you trade weapons. You might have to pick up a sword, or metaphorically speaking, your pen becomes a sword. If you're a writer, your mindset becomes, like, it becomes your arsenal. Yeah. And the only thing that defines, like a warrior from a warrior is discipline. Mm-hmm. The warrior, the person that's always complaining, they can do the same thing as the warrior. Mm-hmm. But the methodology and the triggers are different. Yep. For what would make the warrior act mm-hmm. out. Like you remember I think Nas had a line in the song, and he called somebody an accident murderer, right? Meaning mm-hmm. that somebody shoot somebody when they're scared. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, you caught a body, but you killed somebody when you were scared. That's the warrior. The warrior.
I think there was a cop shot the kid.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Kanye was saying that he wasn't riding the beat. It was like, that's what we're talking about. Yeah. Intentionally being awkward and being awkward is like someone who actually knows the steps that they're taking. The particular person that you're talking about, the person that will only follow the beat and only ride the beat is that warrior, because if he steps out of line, he thinks these things are going to happen. But that warrior understands that he's going to get a certain response, and it's going to change how you operate in that environment, and it gives him the advantage. And that gave Nas the advantage over that beat by not riding the beat that Kanye was trying to get him to follow on the line. Yep. And so even talking about that accidental murderer,
yeah,
that's the thing we're going to be revisiting this stuff in the future, bro, because I think I've been studying your boy Kanye for a while, and I think we're going to come back and kind of see that he's kind of that accidental murderer, and he wants to kind of cast these aspersions on other people. Now, for those who attack him, that's those who attack him, but those who haven't attacked him that he's thrown shots at, mm-hmm. What did he do when he tried to throw Jay under the bus and the others under the bus who hadn't attacked him, right? What did he do? He was an accidental murderer. He didn't know what he was doing, but he didn't know what he was doing when he went on television and said, George Bush doesn't like black people. Mm-hmm. Like, have you ever, I don't know if he's ever even been to New Orleans at that point in his life. Did he know what black people were doing to black people in New Orleans? And that's not to say that George Bush is not at fault in any way, but nature, the environment of that particular jungle.
You can't blame, yeah.
You can't blame this person for anything that's happening down there, because he will not be able to save one life if he came down there right then. He wouldn't save one life. In fact, he would put more lives in danger. He would have been the accidental murderer if he came right then, because of whose lives were no longer going to be important because the president was there. Their lives are no longer as important as they could be if you're trying to rescue them if the president is there. That's something you understand, but you have a background. Right. This person is an accidental murderer because he's saying that your life is only at danger because somebody way more powerful that doesn't know you exist should have did something about it. Well, in your world, in his world, he is the president. That's why he wants to control the beat. That's why you have somebody where you say, hey, Nas, I can give you this platform on my beat to communicate this. Well, Nas intentionally went in that particular room to write his lyrics for your beat. And then all these years later, we're hearing about these shots that you threw at this person. You knew he was talking about you in your lyrics.
Yeah.
Sometimes when you start your video, I'm telling people, like, I was just telling a friend about you and about this conversation we're going to have. I'm like, the way he operates is so meticulous that these people identify themselves in his comments.
Yeah.
That they feel hit and shot by him. But he's not an accidental murderer in this particular case. It's you falling on your sword in the comment section to get a reaction out of somebody who got a reaction out of you by speaking very plainly and very straightforward.
Yep. I don't even say a whole lot. I speak about behavior because my profession and my skill set is my foundation is studying behavior to target it. So when I'm saying something, I don't know anybody's individual history. I don't know like the people that's in the comments right now. I've spoken to Jessica. I don't know anything that she's done prior to conversation that I've had with her. You know what I'm saying? And I don't know anybody's history. I didn't grow up with anybody. I'm usually either older or younger than most of the people. And then if I didn't serve with them, I didn't go to school with them. If I haven't, seen them around the corner here, where I live in Texas, or interacted with them in Birmingham or any other part of the world that I've lived in. How is it that you could be so emotionally, connected to so few words?
Exactly.
And to me, I think that is, I think it's very special. You know what I'm saying? Because like the same, I've seen words that have hit me, but like it made me examine myself in a way where it's like, if somebody can say something very plainly enough to me to make me say, you know what, maybe I need to revisit something. Maybe I need to make a connection, with what I'm seeing, am I missing something? Like, or maybe I need to move this piece. I got to make adjustments. Bottom line, if you can be impacted in such a way where you are gravitating towards making the exception into the rule, different. So I focus in on general behavior that everybody can either has an experience. Most people are going to have the same experiences with something. Yeah. And generally speaking, men and women share the same conflicts because we have relationships with each other.
Yep.
And within a relationship, you got shared experiences. That's why you see, like when women say all men behave this way, and then men will say all women behave this way, right? Well, where's the mutual combat taking place at, right? The mutual combat occurs over activity. Just like when you got kids, when your kids beefing with each other, you say stop. What y'all arguing about, right? So we look at men and women, we say stop. What y'all arguing about? Well, he does this and she does that. Okay.
Shared resources and scarcity.
Shared resources when it comes, so that's part of it too. But the real nuts and bolts of it is that where do men and women participate with each other where the conflict happens? Like you play football, in between snaps, y'all might be talking crazy, but you don't put yourself in a situation where you hurt your team, right?
Yep.
So when you look at men and women when they're beefing, and where the connection is generally off of sexual connection.
Yeah.
Because that's why you feel some kind of way about the opposite sex when you feeling disrespected by the opposite sex, because men and women need each other in a greater sense. But you don't need every woman that you interact with, and every woman doesn't need every man. Every man and every woman is not going to be attracted to each other. So when you start making these distinctions about where the gender war actually is and what's the beef with it and stuff, it's based off of previous relationship experience with each other. But the compatibility that people have conflicts at is because of your upbringing, how you was raised, the moral values that you were trained with underneath your own roof. And then when you go outside, you operate with the way that you was raised, and then you test it against other people. And then you don't know how wrong you are till somebody says, hey, we don't do that here.
Yep.
Hey, you gotta, we follow a different code.
Mm-hmm.
And Americans don't get this, you know what I'm saying, the same way, because the conflicts that we have in relationships in America, in the Western world, where sexual liberation is a, you know what I'm saying, a huge deal, it's being talked about so broad that they don't have nothing else to compare it to. But you go to a Muslim country, or you go to an Asian country, there's all society accounts for sexual discipline everywhere you go.
Yeah.
From the 10 Commandments to, you know what I'm saying, divorce, marriage. Marriage is a big deal globally. So in the foundation of marriage, one of the tenets and the codes of it is, hey, adultery is a bad thing. You know what I'm saying? Fidelity is a major, you know what I'm saying, issue. We have to discuss, you know what I'm saying, what's the boundaries on that. Sexual discipline is a major identifying criteria of a person's personality, because that's how they relate to other people.
Yeah. We got Brenton.
Yeah, I see him. I'm about to bring him up right now. Here we go. What's
going
up,
on? Brenton? How you doing, man?
I'm doing all right. How about you?
Yeah, nice to meet you, man. Nice to meet you.
Likewise.
Well, Brenton, hey, good to see you. You know what I'm saying, in digitally as possible. I know we away from you know what I'm saying, you being a Florida fan and always making excuses for him. You know what I'm saying? So finally bringing up to the conversation, we're gonna see how this gonna go today. You know what I'm saying? So what's up with you? How you doing today?
I'm doing pretty well.
We got a little SEC live action, Brenton. I didn't tell you this. You didn't have a chance to get to know that, but I played ball at Auburn. I was recruited by Florida. I was recruited by Alabama. I actually went on a visit to Florida. I had to tell Ron Zook that you're not going to get a job. You're not going to have this job for more than 3 years. He looked at me like, what are you saying? I'm saying, you're not going to be here. Steve Spurrier. You're not going to keep this job for more than 3 years after he comes in. So I felt like I was the first one who was honest with him. Now, he really wanted me there. He told me I could play two ways. I could be an offensive lineman and a defensive lineman, start as a true freshman, get used both ways and other things like that. That he thought I was that type of player. Didn't matter to me. You weren't going to be here 3 years, bro. Like, I know that. And I know I'm a 4-year guy. I'm a 4-year starter is what I hope to be, but I'm a college graduate in the future. So I plan on being here for 4 years. So once again, if you're not going to be here, coach, for 3 years, who's going to be here my senior year? And that's how I made my decision. Yeah.
Man. Brent, tell the audience a little bit about yourself before we move forward.
Okay. I'm a 90s baby. I drive trucks for a living. Any transmission you put me behind, I could probably figure it out in 10 minutes or less. And I was a college athlete myself. I didn't go D1, but I'm a big sports fan, Florida fan for sure. We're gonna get back to greatness one day. But yeah, I'm a guy in my 30s, and I'm a father, just navigating life the best way I know how.
Are we all? So, we were before you came on. We were talking about gaps in experience, and a lot of times, I think men are talking to each other, and we don't really believe in most cases that someone can have more experience about life until we start having a certain type of conversation, and then you realize that has to be there has to be some kind of pecking order. You know what I'm saying? Worst case, because we're gonna die. You know what I'm saying? You can't have the person with the least amount of experience, you know what I'm saying, making all the decisions for those that don't have it. Just simply put, you know what I'm saying? So I think you got an echo in the background. It's coming through your speakers.
You hear something right now?
Only when I talk. Yeah. Just mute. Just mute while you know what I'm saying. That way we can afford it. Yeah. So like we don't know what we don't know until, you know what I'm saying, a certain situation triggers a need for a person with the know-how to start speaking. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of the times people miss the opportunity to learn, you know what I'm saying, versus having their individual exception being accounted for. And what we also understand too, as you become, uh, like more experienced in the world, that not everybody cares whether you right or wrong. And even when you right, you keep pushing. You know what I'm saying? But it has to be right for the greater good. And some people are more motivated to make their pet peeves the standard than the vast majority, because you got to operate with the world. You can have your own personal situation, you know what I'm saying, and what you operate off of. But I find it strange that people can go to work, clock in for somebody, work with people that they don't like, adhere to whatever standards that keep everybody in bounds, and we don't apply that, you know what I'm saying, outside of it, because somebody doesn't pay us. Sometimes the potential that we can arise to comes from paying attention to our environment, because long before there was books, policies, rules, and standards, we had to learn how to read people before we would. You have to be literate at reading people, and I don't think we're as literate at reading people as we should be. So, I think that we have more to gain by listening to each other than absorbing different content and then just only applying it to our own personal experiences. And like, if we've been kicking it on social media for 10 years and we're not talking to each other, it's kind of weird at some point.
Oh, it's weird. It's even weirder when you got brothers, you got bloods and cousins and stuff like that that's watching you on social media, barely interacting with you in person, but somehow thinking they're keeping up with a family member through social media without engaging, without interacting. So I don't do that. Like I said, I seen Brenton's comments. I was like, I see where he's going. I like how he's thinking, but I want to say something to him because he seems like a young man and he seems like he may be open to different points of view. And it's not for me to change his viewpoint. It's to have this conversation with Victor, right? And with you. And like, I feel like that is a healthy way to kind of cultivate what we're talking about. If me and Victor who communicate with each other, you and Victor communicate with each other in different formats, right? Through social media. If we have a conversation, what comes of this if we start having conversations and getting to know each other and identify instead of judging based off of your comments, right? So I could tell that you've been judged based off of your comments. So I'm gonna engage with them. And then when you responded, I'm like, there you go. Hey, Victor, this would be great for me and him to get on the call because we don't know each other. We don't have preconceived notions about each other. And we don't have any reason to have an argument around our different ideology or our thought processes. And the world doesn't have enough of this. So let's make it happen. Set it up. Let's get on here and let's talk. Right?
And this is perfect for me because like I want to moderate. I want to do more moderations. So because like my page is what it is. I moderate on my page, you know what I'm saying, with my words, and I streamline my audience by, hey, look, this is the way that makes this is how we keep things balanced over here. Yeah. If you don't come in with some sort of, you got to have some boundaries. Mm-hmm. Everybody talks about that, but you see me enforce my boundaries. You know what I'm saying? I write very plain. Yeah. I don't do a lot of cursing. I don't, you know what I'm saying? Like, I balance things out with some humor, and I like, you know what I'm saying, high octane stuff too, you know what I'm saying, because I ride motorcycles, you know what I'm saying, I drag race, I got an adventurous spirit, you know what I'm saying, so you got to have some edge, because the whole point of having edge is the boundary, you know what I'm saying, you have to go do some stuff, and very few people have done the same amount of things as everyone else. No two people have had the same experience. You know what I'm saying? We might have some shared, you know what I'm saying, relatable experiences or whatever, but the common man is still what we still are. Like we just have some experience that goes with it that says, like I know a little bit more in this lane than you might know in this lane, because I've had conversations with Brenton where he thought I was his age. And I don't even know how he got that, but I have to understand that he's looking at the world from his own lens. You know what I'm saying? And it's okay to say at some point, I've been your age if you ain't never been mine. So who, it's not that we can't learn from each other, but what are you trying to learn? And if you're a person with the experience, are you beating people down when you recognize that the person doesn't have the same view that you have?
And that's the point. And I want Brenton to speak up on it. That's the thing I wanted to interact with you for. The whole I've been your age, you haven't been mine, Brenton. When I saw that, because if you get poisoned right now where you're at this age, you're going to come back for your licks, to get your licks in, to know something, to have the information, to be able to hit somebody over the head. And that's one of the things I try to keep myself from doing. And I try to encourage other men like yourself at your age to not seek that opportunity and that approval. You see people on social media growing a huge following because they attack, right? But you don't have to become that just for the sake of getting a huge following or getting interactions and stuff like that, because it does something to you. It poisons your soul a little bit to go on an attack like that. But I did want to hear from you, but that's exactly why I came to you, to catch up with you like that.
Usually, well, I kind of move a little different with my thought process, and it's not intentionally. Sometimes it comes off as, I don't want to say counterproductive, but like they say, devil's advocate. It comes off as like I can agree with something, but I might still question it. And it's not because um, I don't agree with it or I feel a certain type of way about it. It's just that when I grew up, I was raised in a Christian home. That was just part of the routine, go to church every day. When I got older, I started researching for myself. I read the book, all 56 books, 3 times minimum. And then I was reading, and then I go listen to these sermons, and I was like, this whole here, and this ain't adding up, this ain't adding up. And I often have more questions than I have answers. So usually now when I hear someone, drive forward a point or something, if I got a question or something, it's kind of like a habit. Like, I gotta understand, like, why do you feel this way, or how did your perspective become this way? Because I'm seeing this point right here. I just got a tendency to pick out. I don't want to call it flaws, but like a potential loophole, so to speak.
Yeah. Nah, I definitely did. Your audio was working better when you first jumped on the call, and I know when we had to have you mute your stuff. Did you do something different to it?
No, I'm not sure what happened.
It's giving the underwater effect, but I can hear you and I can understand you, but I'm also reading your lips. That's just because you got a decent enough signal to have good audio. So I don't know why they have that audio going. I can't hear you at all now.
Yeah, I heard it. It sounded better earlier too. I agree with what Troy said. It sounded like he was eating peanut butter on the last one. It'll probably straighten back out. Maybe you got to leave out. Are you using like earbuds or Bluetooth in the car?
Yeah.
Take the Bluetooth off.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about now?
Yeah.
That's better?
Yeah, way better. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Let's fix this again. All right. But
just restate your point
about learning from others and reading for yourself and other things like that.
Yeah. That's let me turn this up a little bit. Okay. But yeah, that's what kind of moves me. Like when I was coming up, I was raised a Christian, and they said you don't question God. So I didn't question anything. Whatever I was told, if it was by some authority figure, that's what I took. But then when I got older, like I said, I started to notice like a lot of these authority figures, they weren't practicing what they preach, or they'll tell you, do as I say, not as I do. So I'm like, is it's not really adding up to me. So if you telling me to do it this way, why aren't you doing it this way? And then that's just how I kind of sort of develop my mindset.
I think something in the key word that you said, authority figure, right?
Yeah.
The pastor in itself doesn't consider himself an authority figure. And if they are an authority, they're authority on the word and the scripture. They're not authority on you, right?
Yeah.
And your mother, your father can bring you to the congregation, but you yourself still have to join the congregation. So that man, what he is not an authority figure of you yet, right? You didn't join his congregation. You didn't devote yourself to him and his church in particular, even if you consider yourself to be baptized and devoted yourself to God. And that was the kind of line that stuck to me, because T.D. Jakes is someone I know that I have had some thoughts about in the past when I was around your age that you're at right now. Yeah. And I immediately caught that line. I was like, that's not the one, because he will show you the scripture where he is just a man and he doesn't assume to have a heaven or hell to put anybody in. So who would assert that T.D. Jakes is an authority figure in that setting, in that environment? And not because you didn't use that with him. You didn't say he was an authority figure, but you felt like you were brought to the table, to the altar, to listen and learn from someone that maybe your mother, right, presented as an authority figure.
Yeah.
Did you feel like your father did the same?
Well, my father, he's not really religious at all. He's more of a
and
he has more of a survivalistic mindset. He's saying just keep your head low, keep grinding, and it'll work out. That's his kind of thought.
There you go. I was pretty sure of that. Not about you, but I was pretty sure that it was more of the mother's relationship that was cultivated in your relationship with religion. Therefore, you're not actually opposing the religion or the scripture. You're opposing how you were introduced to it and how it was presented to you through your mother, because she wanted it to be an authority in your life so she could have an understanding and a say-so with how you develop from that point on, without actually having to order your steps herself, because she's not a man. She couldn't order your steps, right? So she brought you to the altar with religion so that could order your steps and she could have an understanding of where you were going as a man. That was a fault, but not a fault on her own, because there's that point in time where you as a young man have to reject that particular order. And you have to understand your own. But you don't have to associate the church, that particular church, and religion with doing that. That's one thing that your mother decided on. And you don't have to hold her accountable for that as well. Because what it is, you are still a man. You still have the right to decide and understand life through your own learning, right? So you can free everybody of that burden, that emotional burden that you felt. You wanted to project it right back on them. You don't have to do that as a man. You don't have to hold anybody else to the standards that you hold yourself to. Yes, they may have imposed things upon you that made you feel that you need to push it back and give it back to them. But at that point, I had an understanding when I was reading your messages that you may still feel this way. You may still be burdened by the fact that you felt this stuff was imposed upon you, even though as a man, you know that you learn what you want to learn. You have and develop your own ideology. But as you cultivate relationships with other men, you also have to acknowledge that they have their own. And that's kind of the platform and the format that Victor has put together here with this accountable masculinity. Like, we should be talking about it. We should be confident and comfortable in telling people what our ideology is and how we stand. And not to say a catchphrase, we stand on business, because that doesn't mean the same thing to everybody else.
Yeah.
Them people who press buttons that Victor know, they press buttons, and when they say they stand on business, they raise the floor. They raise the floor, and there's no more conversation. Well, there may be people listening to this conversation and they have no idea what raising the floor means. And then they go Google it and they see the ground shake. They see the buildings disappear. Like, that's what we're talking about. So that's how That's how a young black man feels when he feels the world is on his head. His mother subjugated him. His father left him to his own devices. And now he has to respond. He has to raise the floor. You've seen the rage in your friends. You've seen the rage in these other young black men out here. You've seen what they were trying to do to the world. And imagine them thinking that that was power. The power is not in acting with emotions. It's being tactical and practical and being confident that you don't have to cause the biggest scene just to feel like you are a man or any man. Because I've had my moments. I've snapped, and that stuff is all on television. It's all on Google. But what people around me thought about that moment was he could have did something differently. He could have saw something a different way. They are not interested in seeing what you saw or feeling what you felt. As long as you know that, you don't have to act or react anyway. You can remove yourself from any situation and keep it moving. Even the most violent situations, you can remove yourself from and keep it moving, especially when you know how to cover your six. So, like, that's what I want to share with you, because if you feel like that now, but guess what? You made it through your 20s, though. That's the time you got to think of not being alive, but still holding on to your mind. That's where a lot of black men lose their mind in their 20s, trying to make sure that they know everything they're supposed to know before they have to take life serious. So since you made it through your 20s, right? The idea is, as a young man, as a young father, you're trying to find something to hold on to so you can present it to your children. All right. But what does that look like? What does that sound like? That feeling that you had with your mother, right? Well, if I take my child to church, then they'll have a good start. But if I take my child to church and they feel like I felt, then I would be doing something to them. I would be harming them, right? I would be holding something over their head. So now you're looking for which direction to proceed. The direction to proceed is the one that you identify with, the one that you are confident in, the one that you don't necessarily control, but you are comfortable allowing them to learn and grow within that process, because that's what you deserve. That's a flower, right? That rose growing through the concrete, like Tupac said, right? You deserve an opportunity to grow. And it doesn't matter if you can bust through the concrete of the harshest surfaces, you still deserve an opportunity to grow. You don't have to make sure that there's no concrete over the soil, over the topsoil for you to grow. But that's kind of what you want to do as a father, right? You don't want to make sure they're not growing up in a harsh environment so they become a harsher rose. But as a man, because is your child a girl or a boy?
I got 3 girls and a boy.
3 girls and a boy. All right, so you got a mix of reactions of, I want to make sure they grow up in a nice environment that cultivates them and keeps them soft and full of joy and beautiful. But I want this son to kind of be prepared for war. I want this son to be prepared for the things he's going to face. Yeah, we all have that conversation. But it's not just because you're a father. It's not just because they're a girl or a boy. It's because you're still not confident in your ideology. Yeah. It's not because you haven't got the money or the reserves that you want to. You just know that there's more to learn. And while you're still learning, you want to make sure you're sending the information back the right way. But the cultivation is making sure that they know how to learn, showing them how to learn, showing them how to think for themselves, right? And that process, while they're going through this elementary phase of figuring out everything in life, mom has her projection, right? Mom has her projection. Right. And if she has a mother, her mother has her projections on these children, right? I have my mother-in-law and the mother-in-law's sister coming to town this week to be here for my son's birthday. And yeah, whatever they think of the young men that grew up in their families, right? My young man won't be raised that way. My young man has a father. His father has an ideology, and no one in their family has my ideology. Therefore, my son will be of my ideology. And even if I pass, like my father did when I was 12, there is an ideology in the words that he will hear from me that he will continue to repeat to himself long after I'm gone. Yeah. So that's something you can do. You can start right there, but it's about being confident and comfortable with your ideology. And yeah, we can say this as young fathers, right? It's okay to not know everything. It's okay to not be right. But if you can teach your son how to learn and process information, he has an opportunity to get those things right in the future, regardless of him being given the answers.
All right. So to that, I would say, like at what age did you start instilling that into your son?
So my son is only 3; he turns 4. So I've been cultivating it my whole life. I just turned 40. My father died when I was 12, and I was imbuing this into my friends as we were growing up, as we were working with each other, as we were talking to each other over these years. Everything you learn as a young man, you're outside playing with your friends, your peers, y'all share information. Some may have information they bring back from their dad or older siblings or uncles and things like that. Others don't necessarily have that, but we put them all in the same pot. We talk about everything. We keep it going. We kept the conversation going. For a lot of people, they didn't necessarily have that, right? So the holding yourself accountable is that. What age do you start teaching your child to hold themselves accountable?
Probably when it's about potty training age.
There you go. Right away. Right away, you have to be a man. Right away, you have to understand these things. Right away, you have to learn to control your emotions. Right away, you have to make decisions. Right away, you know that this decision could cause somebody else to feel frustration or anger with you. So they're learning it their entire lives. It's as Freudian as anything else that they deal with. They're learning it their entire lives and how you respond. Because I can get sharp. I could use words that my son copies. And the world and the mother says, well, I don't want my child saying those things. I'm like, well, there may be a time my child becomes my size. And who in the world will be able to tell him to do anything? So if he uses words like his father, he better be able to back it up. She's like, well, don't put my baby in that position. I'm like, the position will be imposed upon your baby in life, regardless of what I do and what I said, because he's my child. He carries my DNA. He may be my size or he may not be my size, but ultimately he's going to deal with these things in the future, right? So when do you start preparing your son for the future? Right away, every day. Have a conversation with him as plain as you would anyone else, right? He doesn't know that. He doesn't understand those words. I'm like, what? He reads your eyes. He reads your facial features. He knows what you like and he knows what you don't like. You can catch him sneaking around. You can catch him hiding things already. So he learns this stuff already, man.
Yeah.
That's why you get so many boys trying to be their father's best friend. And they want to sit up under him. They want to be like, I want to be right there with you because this man respects me. They know what respect feels like. That's the difference. Like, they don't understand that. Like, a mother may not understand, is what I'm saying. Yeah. Your son knows what respect looks like. He knows you respect him. He knows that you want things for him. He knows that you protect him. Those other things. So he feels your respect. He may associate it with love and other things like that, but you know it to be respect. I think it's concerning when we talk about why that son follows that father the way he does, because those daughters follow that father the same way. And it's interesting because people act like you have a different relationship with each child. So as a man, do you have a different relationship with each child?
Yeah, but it's due to a lot of circumstances. I do have a different relationship with him. So.
Well, we understand the circumstances that may make your time availability different, but you see yourself as a different person when you interact with the different children?
No, not at all.
So why would you say you have a different relationship? Because this is the man. If my kids are having a conversation 10 years from now with each other, they're talking about their experiences with dad, would their experiences not align, not be similar, not be shared? And that's kind of where we started the conversation at with Victor. Like, He was saying you have these shared experiences. They may not be the same, but you have these shared experiences where people could have a good understanding of each other. Your children should have a good understanding who dad is.
Yeah.
10 years from now when they're having conversations about you.
I would say they all, they all would have the same perception of me. If they were to speak amongst each other, I think they would come amongst a similar agreements. But when I meant like the interactions, is kind of a situation with their moms. Like I'm on good terms with all their moms, but their influence is, pulling on them. And when I was earlier, I had all my kids in my 20s. So at that time, I wasn't really getting along with their moms during that time. And, it kind of started them off at different trajectories.
Yeah. No, I definitely understand that concept. And somehow we're thinking like you may want to ask like, hey, what do you think about this situation and how this may affect it? And I would say what you really need to know is if I have time to cultivate this relationship and give it more energy than I've been able to give it in the past, will that change their outcomes? Because you may feel like this is going to negatively impact my children's lives in the future. And I'm trying to figure out if I have enough time. What? Enough time to save it, enough time to correct it, or enough time to just add more value, right?
Right.
What do you feel you need more time to do? Because the hopes are that you're going to be there for as long as you're alive, right? You want to be there forever, right? For as long as they need you, want you to be around them and other things like that. But is it to correct something or is it just to add more value?
I would say starting off is to add more value because, like you said, I plan on being here a long time, but, at the same time, if it's something that needs to be correct, it's a work in progress. I actually been working on that. Not saying that they need correcting, but let's just say I love my kids' mothers. Let me say that. But I back in my 20s, I wasn't the best. I didn't pick, according to discipline. I picked according to emotion, as you say. So if they made me feel a certain type of way, come on. So, and that might not have been the best as far as compatibility was concerned. So.
I got you. So there may be the other part of this is feeling like you're not necessarily in control of your availability to have the relationship and needing to do things to be able to have more availability for the relationship, whether it's your side or their side.
I would say it's both because it's, I can say like my oldest kid moms, we kind of feel the same way about kids. Like at some point, we get up, we motivated, and they are motivation. We get up and we working to make their life better, and then that kind of leads to a situation because we both so alike. She trying to mold her, I'm trying to mold her, and then you got the other half. Let's see, how can I put this? I've been when I was in my 20s, something else you may not know about me. I lost a brother to gun violence. So it seems like after I had my first kid, the first couple of years of their life, I was going through like a depressed state. So I couldn't really be available for them because I was fighting, to survive through my own situations. But when I healed and recovered, I tried to make up for lost time, but you can't really make up for lost time. Only thing you can do is make the best of the time you got now.
I got
So
you.
with that situation, it kind of gave her mom, I guess you could say the green light to mold her in her first beginning years, because I had my own issues I was fighting, and you can't really help anyone else until you help yourself. So.
Mhm. I mean, we definitely understand that, and then we definitely know that following on your sword is something that it seems to take to get back in the door to make sure you're available. You got to take some punches coming in, right? You know what that means, right? In boxing, right? You
Yeah.
can't get your shot unless you're willing to take some punches coming in. So you're gonna have to take some of them punches, right? It don't feel good because the sweet science and the art of boxing is about not getting hit. Some people had an issue with Floyd Mayweather mastering that, and they felt like he wasn't a boxer because he didn't get hit enough, right? I talk around other brothers and I talk about getting in fights and all kind of violence. They're like, "Well, you don't have no scars on your face." I like, because I don't get hit, brother, but my fingers are mangled. My hands are mangled because I mangled people with them. So you have to be willing to take some of those shots coming in. And if your child sees you taking those shots, they know you're taking those shots for them. It's not the mother getting her shots in because she was the primary and the custodial parent. It's your children seeing you sacrificing your manhood, your ego for them. That's what they want. When you don't have that same scenario, here's what you don't want. There are active present fathers who children go out of their way to test them in the same way the mother would, just to see if they truly have the love and the faith of their father. There are children who are well off, who fathers have made a great life for them and paved a great path forward for them, and they will go and destroy everything the father built just to know that they have their father's attention and their love, and not being judged based off of the mistakes that they make, right? So you actually have a better situation because you can just take your shots from mom coming in and the child doesn't throw their own shots at you.
Yeah, I'm definitely taking it. Like right now, like things are great, but it's kind of gonna take like a little reworking because she already had those values instilled from you know in the beginning. So it's kind of like a reprogramming process right now.
Mm-hmm. I get it, man. I get it. I definitely understand that. Well, like I said, you have enough. Yeah, you have enough before you right now to kind of focus on and deal with. So let me ask you this. Engaging with the Accountable Masculinity platform, right? And the sports groups. What kind of escape is that for you? Is that a place you're trying to be and you wish it was more a part of your daily life? Or is it an escape? Because a lot of people use social media as an escape. Certain genders find value in these exterior conversations that they can dip in and dip out of on a regular basis. But for men, when it comes to the conversations around sports and other things like that, I'm like, no, this is who they are. This is their flag. They're standing on it. This is them standing on business, making sure that everybody who represents this culture around sports, fandom and stuff like that, know that they support this particular team and they believe in these particular players and stuff like that. But a lot of the stuff on social media isn't that. It isn't a relationship you wouldn't have if it wasn't for social media. If there was no social media, the sports fans will still be sports fans.
Yeah.
But social media is full of people who don't really have something they hold on to in the flag they hold on to outside of social media. They only have these points of views because of social media. So there you go. We bring our sports fan into a world where these people don't understand it at all. And we're having conversations with people who don't know how to stand on something that they believe in outside of social media. Their whole point of argument and contention is based on the conversations they've seen other people have. And they put together their arguing points, their oppositional points, to be able to get you into a conversation so they could hit you over the head with their point of view. But this conversation started with them off another thread. So like I knew that wasn't the case when I was just reading your comments, but I knew if you were commenting on this platform, I knew the interaction y'all may have had before. It may have been similar to ours, right? So I was like, boom, I don't know how long you've been following him, but I've been following him a little bit long. So I'm like, let me interact with this guy because he's offered me opportunity to kind of jump on before. I'm like, this is a young man. He seemed to be at that crossing point. He doesn't seem to have the vitriol, but yeah, there is something there that he's holding on to with regards to his ideology, and he's wanting to cultivate it, right? So you want to sharpen your swords, right? You want to be able to stick them in there and to touch the nerve that you wanted to touch, right? But you also don't seem to be a person that wants to watch somebody bleed. You don't want to be messy. So that means you're trying to keep your hands clean. Well, you are not a mobster. You are not a gangster. So there's no reason for you to cut somebody and keep your hand clean. Because if you coming on here and you talking big trash about your team, talk big trash about your team because that's what sports fandom is about. Me and Victor never had to hide that. We had that. We had those interactions. I played at Auburn. He's an Alabama fan, period. And we kept it there. And we got that off there. And then we had conversations as men outside of this regarding the issues and the things that men see. So that's how you can do it as well. So if y'all had interactions, you jumped on. He took a little shot at you right away, right? About Florida, he took a shot at you right away. Because you need to know that you can just keep that conversation right there and still have profound respect for a man, and y'all have conversations that add value to your lives.
Yeah, because I met Victor through the sports group. It's probably been, I don't know how long it's been in the sports group, but it's been a lot of years now. And, I really don't even know how we got outside of sports, but like, I do believe things happen for a reason. And,
you don't know that? So you haven't been studying him enough yet then, because I told you, this is an intelligence officer, okay? Brother, everybody he interacts with, he builds a profile for. He has your persona. He has an understanding of who you are, where you are from, what you do with this information, and how you will interact with him around these settings. He has to do this because this is a part of his skill set. He's not doing it because he's going to use it. He has to do it because this is a part of his skill set. This is Michael Jordan with the flick of the wrist, bro. That's all it is for him. You know what I'm saying? He hit his shots. Yeah. I know that because I used to work with homeless veterans. And the same veterans you see on the street with a sign, I used to tell people, those aren't the veterans I work with. I'm talking about I work with homeless veterans that still got their skills, that are just as sharp as anything else. And they would leave my program making more money than I do because I would help them from where they are to focus on what they already have, what they've done, and their skills. And I would match them back up with their career, get them a little training, and send them on their way. And I've been interacting with those guys for the last 7 to 8 years, providing references for them. And I don't even work in the same state that we were in the program together. So I have that understanding of these soldiers and how they were trained and what they mean to society, bro. Like the same way a SEC football player think he's the cream of the crop. Yeah, that's them too. It's not just every soldier though. It's not every soldier. It's several guys who actually found themselves in that space and they kept building on the skill sets. You keep building on the skill set. So find yourself right now in this time. There's a reason why you're having a conversation with these two gentlemen, me and Victor. You keep building on yourself as a man. You hold higher standards for yourself as a man. You keep building on that, adding value to that. You will find yourself doing that for your children, and the women you had those children with will grow to respect you to new heights. They will create opportunities for you with your children and your engagement. They will tell your children things about you because they watch your progress too. They seen your growth as well. You hurt them. You cut them. You made them feel low. You made them feel bad. You made them feel all kinds of things. And they are still your biggest fans. Yeah. Right? They are still your biggest fans. They allowed you an opportunity to create a child with them. They thought something of you at one point. And moving forward, they will continue to think something of you. And you can still decide what you would like to influence them to think of you. You can still add value to that engagement and that relationship. You can still add value to your children's life through them offering you the opportunity to be able to do that because the state supports them not doing that, right? All right. Yeah, the federal government supports them not doing that, right? So maybe the higher standard of life for yourself is being a man that's available and afforded the opportunities to still impact his children and he has an absolute passion for them and wanting to see them do good in life. Because none of the mothers of your children should be able to tell the world that's not the case.
Yeah.
None of them are going to have the ammunition and a reason to tell the world that's not the case. But some of them may be motivated financially to do so. They may feel that they want to air it out and they want to get people liking them and following their profile. Well, guess what? Even if they build an audience off of their hate for you, don't allow that to be how you view yourself. They can say, yeah, girl, I know, because you told me everything about them, right? Don't make that group of people clapping for her and slapping fire with her. Don't let that group of people become your villains. Don't build that into your origin story. You are the hero. You are the protagonist of your origin story. Do not add people who do not exist in your storyline, in your timeline, in your dimension to your origin story. I've had business dealings with people who've tried to make me the villain of their storyline and pat themselves on the back. I'm like, why? Why would you invite Galacticus, Robeast, into your origin story to make him your villain? Because you feel like that makes you a bigger hero? Towers fall, bro. Regimes fall. Don't make yourself the hero just so you can get knocked down.
Yeah.
Don't go out here and making people the villain of your story just so they can hit you with a couple of shots. They don't deserve access, because the only reason they're getting close to you, right? They got to take a couple of shots for you, but it's just to get their shots in. So when they engage with you, when they go to hit you to come out of your hole, out of your shell, out of your focus, out of your range, right? They're trying to get some shots in. So anybody trying to get some shots in, you stay clear. That has to be your focus, right?
Right.
There's only a given few that you're willing to take shots for, and we already determined that was your children, right? And by proxy, they're mothers. So there you go. Nobody else should be hitting you with shots. That even means me and Victor. But as long as you're willing to have this conversation with us and keep it cold, keep it on cold, we're gonna talk some trash about your team, man. We want you to feel some kind of way when that season come back around, bro. Hey, me and Victor ain't talking no trash right now, because the more the Auburn program gets down, the worse the loss at the Iron Bowl feels. So it don't matter. It don't matter, bro. I ain't never had to worry about this, because I was telling people that the Iron Bowl means more than being Georgia and beating Georgia Tech. It means more than Miami losing to Florida State. The winning the state of Florida, winning the state of Georgia don't mean the same as winning the state of Alabama, bro. So once again, it don't matter how down our program is. One good shot and one win changes how you feel for the rest of the year. You need to see that in yourself. You need to see that in your life, because you got a shot, bro. With every single one of those children, you got a shot. And I don't know if anybody tells you that, right?
Right.
People may make you feel like if you do everything the mother wants, you got a shot, but you don't have the energy or the reserves to actually have the impact you want to have if you do everything that they want you to do, right?
Yeah.
So you still got to be guiding yourself. You got to be setting up yourself, taking your own shots, right? Making your own plan plain and clear. Well, just right now where you're at in life, removing some of that social media from it will help you see it that way. Will help you see it clear. Because if you're engaging with platforms like this, yeah, we're talking about something that adds value to you. We're talking directly to you, bro. I jumped on here and wanted Victor to set this up just so I can talk directly to you. Has this happened on any other platform? Has this happened on any other conversation in any other group for you, where somebody said, hey, I see you, I can help you, I can add some words of wisdom for your life, where I want to support you in your development? If this doesn't happen in these other places, bro, remove yourself in them places.
Yeah. That's one of the main reasons I came here. Like, I've seen platforms where people say, hey, I can help you, this, and that. But then when it comes down to it, it's just usually the generic stuff that, you know, you already saying for yourself. Like I don't really gravitate to things that don't make me think because it's more of a distraction. I believe if you're not trying to elevate yourself, then you really not doing nothing, or you going backwards. Like like I said, in my 20s, I spent a lot of time around negative people, and it put me in places I didn't want to be. And I find myself thinking like, why am I here? Like, not saying I'm way above this point, but I know better. So, like I said, I don't really even know how I got to this platform or outside of sports with Vic. But like you said, well, maybe his skill set, he planned it or whatever, but it worked because, you know, when I listen to him talk, you know, my mind moves, and that's the kind of stuff I need. If my mind moving, I'm thinking, and if I'm thinking, then I got a chance to elevate because I can, you know, progress.
Exactly. Now, it's important to me about how I feel about myself. These are the relationships that I've continued to have my entire life. I got friends that feel some kind of way about me spending time having this conversation with you. Like I should be just focused on myself, doing my thing. But this is my thing. This is my thing. I'm a present brother. I'm an active brother. I hold my brother's hand. I lift him up. Do I expect you to return that favor and lift me up? You have to be there. You have to be able to see that. So only the brothers that are there and are seeing me have that responsibility. You yourself wouldn't have that responsibility. But some of those brothers that are there at that time must know that I am this person. Therefore, if they needed more motivation to help me when I was in need, this would be the motivation. This would be why. So when Victor hit me with the share, hit me with the invite, hit me with the graphic, I shared it with people I've known for over 35 years. People who've called me just for the first time in the last 3 to 5 years and had these type of conversations. My OGs and my young Gs. You know what I'm saying? Like these people, we know of each other. We've been around each other. We engage with each other. We bump into each other. We say, what's up? We embrace. But they ain't the best friends. They ain't the ones who get over the house for the wife's birthday and stuff like that. These are guys that are just there and they're still a part of the story. So they come at different times and different points and stuff like that. When you have these people with different backgrounds and understanding and you know your purpose, yeah, I expect to be this man, bro. Because I done seen young men not have that and they kill themselves. Whether I've had multiple teammates commit suicide, multiple friends commit suicide, and then a bunch of other people dying in accidents and stuff like that. So I take it very serious. So when you say you lost your brother to gun violence, that's how that story ended, but that's not what it did to you. You know what I'm saying? Your soul, your heart didn't get shot because he was shot. You have something you are missing and you're holding on to because that person is no longer here, right? And then there's the experience that you went through during the time, during the funeral, after the funeral. And there's a place that you are still in. You're kind of in a limbo, right? You can still remember it. You can still feel it. You still know exactly how you are. And people you interact with, they pick up on it. They may not know what happened or why it is, but they pick up on it. Well, seek the understanding yourself, bro. Because I can tell you it's not going to change. And 15 years from now, somebody in your life that you may love and care for will say, hey, you need to let that go. Do you need to let it go? Or do you need to understand it more so you can utilize what value is there? A lot of people have a lot of thoughts around death, and we don't have the same ideology. So once again, you have to be confident that your ideology is yours. Someone telling you how to feel and someone telling you how to think and someone telling you how to react isn't what men do at all. That's not how me and Victor interact and engage. You don't tell another man how to think, another man how to be, but you can remind your brother that you are absolutely acting out of character.
Yeah.
You know, and you can hear that. And yeah, you can let him know that you hear that. But after that point, if you feel like you don't ever want to have that conversation again with that particular brother, even if it added value, be confident. You don't ever have to have a conversation with that brother again because he added the value he was supposed to add. And that relationship can end now. You can close the door on even that relationship, right? So, well, what's the point of it? Well, the point of it is this. That person who's dying to tell you something about yourself isn't necessarily dying to hear you tell them something about them. So when you do have the moment where you could help them and add some value to them, they're not going to listen to you because you are the person that they give that information and advice to. They're not going to pay attention to nothing you say from that point on right there, because they're going to be thinking that you're looking to get your opportunity back to level them and give them some truth, some hard truth, right? They're not going to engage with you. And when I realized that I had some good friends that behaved that way, I said, I'm listening to you, brother. Hung up the phone and I told my wife, I said, wow, that's tough. I don't ever plan on talking to my friend again. 6 and 7 months later, that person is bumping into other friends saying, hey, man, what are we going to do about Troy? And the same friend he says it to is like, I was just hanging with Troy the other day. What you mean? He has his family and he's living his life. And in fact, he's growing spiritually and being more open about his spirituality than he's ever been. And he says he's in a good place and he's feeling very peaceful. You can imagine how it made that friend feel. It's like, you've been interacting with him. He's still a part of your life. And I haven't heard from him, right? Eating him up. But he's the one who thought he came with a hard truth. He learned the hard truth, right?
Right.
It's the same thing with some of these baby mothers. If you were to remove yourself, but still be active, present, and give them the things that they wanted from you still, but you don't give them that negative energy that they feed on the reaction from, it will change how they view themselves. It will change how they operate. And it may create a bigger opening for you to have a more valuable impact on your children.
Right.
But you have to see that for yourself, and you have to know that to be truth. Do not take that just from me. My household may be together, but it is just as rocky as any other household. We have to fight for it together, right? Just like you and your brothers have to fight for the friendship together. You have to pour into each other, right? So like support each other in different ways and finding that understanding. This whole American experiment where we act like we know how to do that as citizens, but we don't even know how to do that as family. We don't know how to do that in a relationship, but somehow we know how to all hold arms and hold on to Americans' principles and sing the songs together and wave the flag together, but we don't know how to hold on to our own families, right?
Right.
So imagine that process and imagine the weight of the world that's on that relationship. Just know that you're putting that same weight of the world on your back. You can't possibly lift it up your own, which means that you're going to have to get confident and comfortable at some point asking your children to lift some of this burden, to hold some of this weight. You don't want to put it on your children, but at some point, you know, the world will. Therefore, you have the conversation what your expectations are for them. And you allow them to become the people that can actually hold some of that burden, right? Hold some of that weight, not lift it off of you, but you have to communicate. You have to talk to them. You have to have that engagement with them and add that value to them, right? And that's going to be the thing that the mother is going to respect you the most for, because that's the thing that a father is there for. That's what the biological or the stepdads are there for, to add levity to these situations and communicate outside of the emotions.
Right.
Because we have had to have this conversation with ourselves and how we interact with the world our entire lives, because we have not been seen as boys beyond the age of 11. We have been seen as men. We have been seen as potential aggressors. And people have understood that us being in the room meant that their lives were kind of in danger. So they already saw us as someone they planned on taking out. And we still had to break bread around them and feel comfortable and feel safe in our own self. And they're wondering why we got so many guys seeking drugs and intoxication because they're neurotic and they're out of their mind, because they're always looking over their shoulder. They're always worried about something, right? What are other men your age that you interact with confident in? You're confident in that they can get another woman, right? You remember what that felt like, right? In your 20s, right? They're confident that they can always spread their seed, right? They're confident that even if they don't survive the day, something that they did will survive beyond them. But is it something that they're proud of? Because we're not proud of children just because they exist. We're proud of them because we have a relationship with them, and we think highly of the person that they will grow to become because they have a relationship with their fathers. Right? So think about that, bro. I'm gonna have to let you guys go, man. I enjoyed being on with you. I definitely want to hear back from you, Brenton, and I'll be following the Accountable Masculinity platform as I have for a long time. I got the book Code Talk. It meant a lot to me. I'm going to reread it again. I'm looking forward to see where the platform is going for the near future and in 2024. So listen, man, let's everybody just stay tapped in, man, and follow this platform. This isn't about being sensational. This isn't about shock and awe. This is about practical steps and understanding codes to life and what it means to be accountable as a masculine male in approaching your life. We deal with real life issues and other things that everybody deals with, right? But we'll also give you an opportunity to communicate how you see it, how you understand the world, and what your ideology is and the processes that you've gone through and to grow to have your point of view. And I look forward to connecting with you, Brenton.
All right. Thank you for reaching out too. I needed this, honestly. All right.
I'm glad that everybody was able to get on, and I appreciate the people that's in the audience that had the time to watch the conversation. We're going to start doing this more often. I want to send an invitation out to all men that are interested in mentoring young men to contact me via inbox or whatever platform you're using. And, let's set up a time where you can come on camera and give some of your wisdom to some of the young men that are out here that are looking for guidance, looking for help, looking for understanding and somebody to relate to. Because everything that we see as a problem is only a problem if we don't have a resource to solve it. And again, you have to learn how to read people better before you understand the literature that you have to operate your life by. So with that being said, I'm out. Hey, check us out. Follow the channel. This has been Accountable Masculinity, and this is the platform where men mentor men. Make sure you subscribe on all platforms and hit the like button and follow. Please leave your feedback in the comments. Make sure you hit up the super chat, leave a donation to support the platform. Your chick make you mad, my chick make me a sandwich. Your chick make you mad, my chick make me a sandwich. Go cop the shirt, visit the merch store, shop with Accountable Masculinity, and support the platform. Men have hope.